I'm going to be sharing with you how to actually deal with the ego triggers that pop up in your life, how to be extremely unreactive to these ego triggers and just be with them fully, because these ego triggers are actually happening for a reason. They're happening to allow you to grow. And a lot of the times what we do is we resist these triggers and we don't want to be feeling them, which is completely expected because these ego triggers are very negative and you don't want to feel these triggers. I totally get that. But these ego triggers are a part of the spiritual journey, and you understand that if you're watching this video. Maybe you don't, but I'm going to share with you why this is actually the case. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is actually hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because I post a new video every single day. Also, I do powerful one-on-one sessions. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, then consider applying for a free consultation by hitting the website that's in the description box of this video. So the first thing I want you to know about ego triggers and being unreactive to the ego, the first thing that I want you to know is that these ego triggers are completely normal. Okay, I just want to normalize the whole thing for you, because these ego triggers, a lot of times what we do is we like to resist these triggers, right? We don't want to feel these triggers. And I completely understand that. I understand why you don't want to feel these ego triggers, because they feel very negative. But these ego triggers are a normal part of the spiritual journey. Okay, or pretty much any journey, whether you're aware of the spiritual journey or not. Negativity and negative emotion is part of life, and part of life is to release these emotions so that you can let them go. That's what people don't get. People don't understand that. And the thing that I notice with a lot of my clients and a lot of people that I engage with in life is that they have a very bad relationship with their negative emotions. They don't like their negative emotions, and they unconsciously label them as bad, when the reality is that when you look at these negative emotions from a holistic and universal perspective, there's nothing inherently bad about these negative emotions. It's just that we don't like, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling in our chest or in our stomach when you feel angry or reactive, when you're arguing with a family member, or you feel some kind of negative emotion. It's like we don't want to feel these emotions, and I get that, but what you have to consider is that these negative emotions are happening for your growth, right? They're happening for your growth. So I just want to ask you right now, can you accept that these negative emotions are a necessary part of your growth? Can you just accept that fully? Because these negative emotions, these triggers are happening for you. The triggers are happening for you. I'm not just saying that to be motivational. I'm literally telling you that these negative emotions are actually happening for you. Because if there's no triggers, then what is there to let go of, right? In order to let go of something, you have to have a trigger first. So I just want you to understand right off the bat that these ego triggers are actually normal. I want to normalize it for you. And I want you to develop a better relationship to your negative emotions and your egotistical shadow, like the shadow that comes up in your life. And that's pretty much what I talk about in my awareness shifting course. By the way, I have 2 days left for that course in terms of the low price. So if you want to be part of that course, just hit the link that's in the description box of this video. And what you have to understand is that these negative emotions, like, part of this journey is not just meditating. It's not just, meditating and then going back into the world and then having these negative emotions control us. It's about living your life from that space and noticing what triggers you, right? Notice what actually triggers you. It could be finances, right? It could be a friend, it could be a family member, but it's super, super critical that you understand right now, if you're watching this video by no coincidence, because you understand that there's no coincidences, that these ego triggers, you have to watch out specifically for what actually brings them out in your being. What brings out these triggers within you? Because if you're feeling triggers right now, maybe you have a bad relationship with your triggers, right? And you need to have a good relationship with those triggers. Like, those triggers are happening for you. And trust me, I understand how negative they can feel. This is just something that I noticed with a lot of my clients. This is something that I noticed with a lot of people in my life and my family. even within myself. Like I was really afraid of triggers, especially within my family and social interactions. Like for the last 3 years, I haven't been afraid of my own triggers when it comes to, just being alone and meditating. And then I overcame my financial triggers, right? When I was investing thousands of dollars in my coach, I noticed that I was getting triggered, believing that there's not enough. I believe there's not enough money, there's lack. And I'm like, no, that's not true. This is just me letting go of certain parts of myself so that I can develop my financial beliefs and be more financially stable. But I had to let go of that trigger to get to that point in my life where I can be comfortable with my finances, right? And so there's certain things that may trigger you that you're not actually conscious of. And so you've got to be very conscious of this, because these triggers will come up. And that is when you want to be very present to the moment and mindful of these triggers so that you can fully feel into them and then let them go. Because if you're just meditating, and this is exactly what I share in my awareness shifting course, by the way, once again, only 2 days left for the discount. It's like these triggers, like if you're just meditating, but then you go back to your daily life and you're not allowing yourself to experience these triggers and let them go, then you might not have the opportunity to let them go just in meditation. What I noticed is that part of my spiritual awakening process is actually to start taking action in life. Take action on the things that would normally trigger me, like investing money in my coach, trying to get more clients, doing this. And it's like, it's just things that would normally trigger my ego and make me scared. Like maybe one thing that I was scared of for the longest time was confrontational energy with my clients or with my family, like the dark energy. I would always want to run away from that energy. But now I'm realizing that these triggers are happening actually for you. Sometimes these negative emotions might not even be yours. It could just be something in your family. But you see, sometimes it's going to have to come up. Sometimes, like, that's the life that we're living in. You see, you have to understand that like, we're social creatures. You're going to have to deal with these negative emotions. So the other thing I want to share with you is don't be afraid of the ego triggers within yourself or others. Don't be afraid. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to dealing with the ego and others, if you're a sensitive and very empathetic person like I am, if you're very intuitive, if you're very connected, what you have to do is be very conscious of whose baggage you take on. Because sometimes people get triggered around you, and then now you're taking on that energy, and you want to be very conscious of whose energy you're actually taking on, right? Sometimes it's not your responsibility to take care of somebody else's dark energy. Sometimes it is, because we are born on this planet to be compassionate and to be loving and to spread love and spread light to the world. And sometimes that may mean you have to deal with a trigger within somebody else through you, because it's kind of like, to some degree, it's your responsibility to help people with these triggers as if you're helping yourself, because we're all connected as one. At the unified level, we're all connected as one. And you got to spread that light. But you can't spread that light unless you first deal with your own triggers. So this is about first, before you deal with other people's triggers, it's first about understanding your own triggers. What triggers you? What situations in your life right now trigger you? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it your finances? Like if you want to maybe invest in a coach and take your life to the next level, and you're like, I don't really know. You see, that's a trigger. You believe that the universe isn't taking care of you when you're very much so taken care of. If you're watching this video, you are taken care of by the universe. I just want you to know that right now. Maybe you're not spiritual, maybe you are. I think if you're watching this video, you're spiritual, whether you know it or not. Like, the universe is taking care of you. There's not really much to fear of. And I know that, if you have financial issues right now, I totally get that. I was there. Like, I invested thousands of dollars in my coach in the last couple months with money that I barely even had. And now, because I dealt with those triggers, I'm finally getting to the point where I realized that, like, it's almost like the universe wanted me to take that leap of faith and drop out of school and hire my own coach and do all these things so that I could prove to the universe that I actually trust. That I actually trust the synchronicity and the divine guidance that you're probably seeing as well. So you want to be very conscious of what triggers you, because the last thing I want to share with you as well is that these triggers are happening for you. Because what happens is when you feel a trigger, you start to get into the victim mentality. Unless you're conscious of it, which is what I'm sharing with you right now. We tend to fall into this victim mentality where it's like we fall into victim. We're like, why is this happening to me? Like, even if it doesn't matter if it's your own trigger or somebody else's trigger and you're in that environment, you need to see that you can't fall into victim, because it's only going to feed the trigger more, and you're giving the ego reactivity exactly what it wants. So what's super key here is to understand that you actually need to feel into the trigger, and you have to absolutely let it go. You have to let go of that trigger, because if you resist the trigger, then you're only keeping it alive, and it's going to be lingering in the background of your energy until you finally decide to just simply let it go. And that's why you're on this planet right now. If you're watching this video, what I want you to right now know in this specific moment, as you're connected with me watching this video, is that these triggers are happening for you. You are meant to let them go. That's something that I realized in my life. I started to develop a different relationship with my shadow, maybe even with the shadow in my family, because it's all connected in a way to some separate degree. If we're going to talk about being a separate being, even though we're all connected, your family's triggers are not your triggers. Okay, that's their triggers. It's not your responsibility. But to some degree, their triggers are within you. Their triggers are usually within you because you absorb the triggers of your family or your friends. Everything is connected, right? So you have to deal with the triggers within you, sometimes through your family. Sometimes it's just your trigger now. Maybe it's not even, maybe it has nothing to do with your family anymore. Maybe it's just your trigger, right? So you want to be very conscious of that trigger. Be very conscious of that trigger when it comes up. It's happening for you. Don't fall into the victim mentality, right? It's happening for you, and I want you to know how powerful you really are and how much power you have to change the collective on the planet right now, because there's a collective energy that we can all tap into. And if you're watching this video right now, if you feel triggered, what I want you to do is actually fully feel into that trigger, feel into your heart space, and just choose to let it go. That's so powerful. You can impact the collective consciousness so powerfully. If you're watching this video right now, all the people watching this video right now, if you just choose to feel into the trigger and just let it go, that is so powerful for the collective consciousness. Now, not just in this video, but I want you to carry this knowledge with you everywhere that you go in your life. I want you to know that these triggers are happening for you. And I know that's a very good feeling to think about. It's like, whoa, I can actually have these triggers and I can just simply let them go, right? Doesn't that feel empowering? I know it's kind of hard to some degree to have these triggers, but just think about that. Is that not very empowering? Doesn't that change your whole perspective to know that these triggers are not happening to you, but they're happening for you? Because you may have heard of the spiritual community, this whole thing of things are happening for you. But I want to break it down in a way for you that actually makes sense, because I want you to understand that triggers are literally happening for you. I'm not just saying it in a way to be like motivational or to motivate you and be like, yeah, everything's happening for us. There are no coincidences. That's absolutely true. There are no coincidences, and everything is happening for you. But I want you to understand the deeper understanding of why this is the case, because I want you to, like, by the end of this video, if you still don't get it, I want you to think about this deeply and start to contemplate, like, okay, why is this trigger happening? Maybe not even on a logical level, but feel into the trigger and see that, like, the only way to get to a higher state is to let go of that trigger. Like, that's the only way, is to, like, deal with that trigger and just let it go. Fully feel into the trigger. This is so powerful. If watching this video right now, if you feel any kind of negative emotion, what I want you to do right now is to feel into the trigger. And if you're not feeling it now, that's fine, then try this after. I want you to feel into the trigger and just allow yourself to feel the trigger as consciousness. Don't be there as an ego. Don't be there as the person, because that's what the ego is, right? The ego is identified with the trigger. It likes to cling onto the trigger. It likes to cling onto the reactive pattern, which is just a pattern. It's not who you are. It's not what you are. Just want you to know that real quick. You want to feel into the trigger and allow yourself to complete the trigger, right? If you allow yourself to complete the trigger, what happens is now it's not going to control your life anymore. You're not going to be at the mercy of the unconscious autopilot response. You can actually let go of the trigger and then ascend to the higher vibrational state because you've let go of the past. Now, here's the interesting bonus is that when you start to let go of this trigger, now you're going to be able to actually understand other people and show more compassion for their triggers as well. When you see somebody else have a negative emotion, now that is where true forgiveness actually comes from. But that's a separate video. I wanted to let you know of that as well. But you see, the key is to not be afraid of your triggers. Don't be afraid of the triggers. Experience them. Allow yourself to complete them. Okay, and once again, that's exactly what I share in my awareness shifting course. So once again, if you want to try that course, if you want to be a part of that course, there's only 2 days left for the discounted price. If I was you, I would just get it now before the price goes up. And the reason I have it at that price is because it is my first course and I'm going to be adding more to it over the next couple of months. So if you get it now, you still get access to all the stuff that's part of that course. And so if I was you and you're going to plan on getting it, I would just get it now. But if you're not, then that's cool. So I want you to remember this before I end this video. I want you to remember that your ego is something that you want to develop a better relationship with, right? Don't resist the ego. Here's something that, once again, I noticed this with all my clients and all the people that are on the spiritual path. They have these ego triggers and they judge themselves for feeling it. Right? I'm feeling a little bit of judgment right now. If you're watching this video, you may be feeling judgment, right? That's what's coming through right now. I'm feeling that you might be you might be judging yourself for feeling these negative emotions, right? But I want you to know that if you judge yourself for feeling that emotion, you're kind of feeding into it more. Like you're feeding the trigger. You're giving the trigger what it wants. So don't judge it. Don't fight the trigger. Just allow it to be there. And I know it's so counterintuitive. When I say allow it to be there, what I really mean is to allow yourself to experience it fully. Not allow it to be there in the sense where you feed it to the trigger more. You see, being unconscious of the trigger would be feeding into it more. The way that you let the trigger go is to actually feel into it, okay? And one more thing I want to share with you, a tool and a resource, is actually my free guided meditation, right? Check out my free guided meditation, hit the link that's in the description box of this video, so that the collective energy on this channel can actually get to a higher state by using this meditation. Because if you're watching this channel, I want you to know how much power you actually have to experience a massive shift in your own life and also create a shift in the collective energy of the planet right now. You have the power to deal with your own triggers, which will help you to deal with the triggers of others and then show more compassion and then to raise the consciousness of the planet, to raise the vibration of the planet. It is kind of your responsibility. If you're watching this video this far, it's kind of your responsibility to deal with your triggers so that you can impact the collective consciousness of the planet. That's probably why you're here. And if these words intuitively feel right to you, then I want you to hit that like button and show other people that you're also part of this path. And I want you to show that, I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone on this path. So if you see a ton of likes on this video, you know that all these people are also on the same wavelength as you, and they all want to ascend. They all want to be at a higher vibration. So check out that free guided meditation and understand that, when you listen to guided meditations like that, and then all of you on this channel connect with that energy, when all of you on this channel watching this video let go of those triggers collectively, I want you to understand how powerful that really is when it comes to the collective energy of the planet. Because, of course there's going to be these negative energies. Of course there's going to be negative energies, but it's okay to feel these energies. It's okay. In fact, if you don't think that they're okay, you're only going to feed into them more. If you fear, if you fear negative energy, you're feeding into it. If you develop a stronger relationship with it and you kind of let it go, you understand that these triggers are happening for you, then what happens is you're actually able to let them go. Okay, so just to conclude this video, here are the last 3 points. First of all, your ego triggers are normal. They are a normal part of the process. Just remember that. they're happening for you. Because some people don't normalize it. Like, they don't normalize it. There's so much resistance around feeling these negative emotions, and they don't just normalize whatever it is that they're feeling. It's like, just, I want you to know it's totally normal. In fact, if you don't normalize it, you're never going to be able to complete it and let it go. Second thing, don't be afraid of the triggers. Don't be afraid of the trigger within yourself and within others. Now keep in mind for this one, if there's a trigger in the other and they're trying to put baggage on you because you're an empath and you're sensitive, do not let them put that baggage on you. Sometimes you have to isolate. Sometimes you can't. You have to create a healthy boundary, and don't feel selfish for doing that. Don't feel selfish for needing to create that healthy boundary so that you can step into a higher state. So then you can deal with your own triggers more powerfully and then come back and spread the light to those people when you have your cup filled, you see. But don't let people put their baggage onto you, because you're not going to be able to fully complete that trigger if you don't actually do that. And I know that sounds kind of freeing. It's like, oh, I can create a healthy boundary. Like, people don't know that. People think that they're selfish for needing some time alone. No, you're not selfish for needing time alone. So don't be afraid of the triggers within yourself, absolutely. Also within others, with the contingency that you've created a healthy boundary in your life. Because if you're completely not afraid of triggers in others, you might get too involved in that kind of energy. And now you're carrying people's triggers for them. And that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is not to handle people's triggers for them. It's for you to handle your own triggers. And if you choose so, to give people compassion and help them deal with these triggers. That's what this whole channel is about. This is why I'm recording this video. My life mission is to help you deal with your triggers. But I've chosen to put myself in that energy. But sometimes I can't do that. Sometimes I have to go alone. I have to meditate. I have to bring my energy back up. And only then can I go back into a coaching call or do things that bring me into that negative energy. And that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. But I understand the energy dynamics of how this is playing, and you may not understand that. So understand that for this second point, it's super key to make sure that you don't want to carry people's triggers for them. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you're in a situation where family is there, there's a trigger, it's happening, it's there. So how do you deal with it? You deal with it by observing your own trigger that is coming through you from them. You deal with it, you accept it. If you have to create the healthy boundary, then do so. But understand that you, generally speaking, don't be afraid of the trigger, right? Don't be afraid of the trigger. Feel into it. Feel into it. Maybe you have to complete some karma with your family, or whatever word you want to use. Maybe you have to complete some past. Maybe you're the light worker in that situation. The light worker, what does that mean? I'm going to share with you a separate video on that. Maybe you're the kind of person that just needs to complete that negative energy in your family. Maybe that's meant to happen. Who knows? There's a lot of stuff that I don't even know how this all works. But if you're listening to me, then you might feel that's intuitively right and that message resonates with you. If that's the case, hit the like button. But what you need to see is that don't be afraid of negative energy. Don't be afraid of negative energy. Of course, at the healthy boundary, don't be afraid of the negative energy. The last thing, once again, it is happening for you. It's not happening to you. The triggers are happening for a reason, by no coincidence. If you're still watching this video this far, you know that there's no coincidence. There's no coincidence you're watching this video. There's no coincidences of when a trigger triggers you in a moment. There's no coincidence. Everything has happened in divine timing. Everything has happened in divine order. It's happening exactly the way that it needs to happen. The question is, how conscious are you going to be of that trigger that comes up? And are you going to be okay with it because you have an understanding that it's happening for you, right? You want to be okay with the triggers, right? Once again, I'm going to leave you with this last thing. Don't be afraid of the triggers and start to question what triggers you. Maybe you feel a little bit better after watching this video. If I was you, I probably would be. You want to just question what triggers you, right? Now that you feel a little bit better, understanding that these triggers are happening for you, I know that can feel very empowering, and I'm happy that that made you feel better. But what you need to see is that now you want to take this information with you to your daily life. I want you to start questioning what triggers you in your daily life. what actually triggers you so that you can complete those triggers. And then as you watch my channel daily, as you start to ascend, you can actually collectively ascend with the people on this channel and also the whole planet. And every time you watch my videos, you'll be at a higher state because you've been integrating the tools that I'm sharing with you. Guided meditation, awareness shifting course. Like if you integrate these tools, if you start meditating, you'll understand that the triggers are for you. You don't understand how much of a powerful impact you're having on the collective doing this. And you have the power within you to deal with your own triggers to then help the collective. And that's up to you to do that. So just remember that. Start questioning, not even logically, but on an emotional level. Observe what triggers you, right? It's not just questioning logically, but observing and noticing what actually emotionally triggers you. And what are you not okay with? Is it finances? Is it your health? What triggers you? You may need to bring awareness to some part of yourself that you have maybe lately have been unwilling to deal with. And I understand that. I can understand why maybe you've been unwilling to deal with that, but it's time. If you're still watching this video, I'm telling you right off the bat, it's time to let go of these triggers. It's time to complete these triggers, complete the past, and ascend to the higher state and get to your natural state of being, which is a high vibration state. Like your natural state of being is a high vibration state, right? I'm not enlightened, don't get me wrong, but I experience a natural state of being where I feel a very high vibe state until I experience a trigger or I get involved with somebody else's trigger. Until that point, I'm at a high vibe state most of the day. So don't get me wrong, I'm not like enlightened, but I understand the deeper energy dynamics of these triggers. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, what I want you to do is actually hit that like button. And once again, the awareness shifting course is only on discount for 2 more days. So if you want to get that, then just hit the link that's in the description box of this video. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.